Lieutenant Kaya Marganar, it seems people are calling you the Immortal. We've heard there were almost no survivors after the meteor crashed on the Highlands. And yet, you appear to be unharmed. How did you survive?
I don't know.
Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we are putting some heavy respect on a JRPG that I know y'all would love, but not many people talk about. Today we talk about the Xbox 360 exclusive known as Lost Odyssey. I played this game for the first time back in 2020, and it has quickly risen up the ranks as one of my favorite JRPGs ever made. Now, unlike my So I Played for the First Time video series where I sit down, I spoil the whole game and go through everything from top to bottom, what I want to do here is put respect on this game and hopefully push you to give it a try. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into nostalgia content, retrospectives, re-reviews, content like this, consider subscribing. Now, as always, let's take a look at the complete in-box experience for Lost Odyssey. First of all, I love the art at the front. You've got Kime here, front and center. Kime is my boy. And on the back, it says, "A man without a past fights for a world without a future." From famed creator Hironobu Sakaguchi of Mistwalker comes a revolutionary RPG experience rich in depth, emotion, and cinematic gameplay. In an age that has harnessed the dark power of magic, you are the mysterious, immortal Kime, on a quest to reclaim 1,000 years of lost memories. Surviving violent wars and encountering friends, lovers, and enemies, you will discover the true meaning of both sorrow and joy. Immerse yourself in an unparalleled storyline set in a massive world. Unique combat system with the use of the aim ring system, skill links, and more. Photorealistic visuals and cinematics intensify the tension and tempo to take you beyond traditional RPGs and experience epic gameplay never before seen with hundreds of field maps, monster characters, and much more. Let me just say off the bat, if you're looking at this and you go, I don't got an Xbox 360, Matt, this is back compat, and this is one of the best backwards compatibility games you can play. It looks modern. It is stupid. The first 10 minutes of this game compete with modern games today. I kid you not. The gameplay speaks for itself. Let's keep looking at the complete in-box experience. Now, what you're going to see here is something kind of staggering. 1, 2, 3, and yes, 4 discs. 4 discs for Lost Odyssey. It is quite a lot. Keep this in mind, though, when you are going through this game, that if you were to buy this and play it via backwards compatibility on the Xbox One like I did, or Xbox Series X, that it will only require 1 disc. You'll put that one in, it'll install the game, and as per usual with the Xbox backwards compatibility program, it effectively emulates the game. From that point forward, just your disc is the activation key. So you can keep the rest of the discs complete in box, nice and calmly there. But let's take a look at the manual, which is another GOAT one. Why is that? Well, you'll notice right away, color. Color is huge for manuals. And here we have a breakdown of the world. This is a brand new JRPG world, so they go all in talking about the magic industrial revolution, where 30 years ago a new power manifested itself unto the world. With its discovery came the magic industrial revolution. This power came to be called magic energy, and even now it's a bit of a mystery. So that's effectively the foundation of the world, and as you'll see here, there are various nations you'll visit, like the Republic of Ura, the Free Ocean State of Numara, and the Kingdom of Gotsa. These are all really important places that you'll see, and all of them, kind of fit in magic energy in their own way. It's really cool to see how they use them. You'll see all the immortals in the game being Kime, Ming, Seth, and Sarah, and how each of them connect is really important. And I'll explain what the immortals are versus, as you see here, the mortals, which are Jansen, Sed, Cook, Mac, and Tolton. You see, it's such an important dynamic on that alone there, that there are people who live forever and people who don't within your own party. Otherwise, what you're going to see here is going to look a little bit familiar. A field map? Yeah, it's kind of like Final Fantasy, and that's how I always market the game to people. I say, do you like Final Fantasy? You're going to love Lost Odyssey, because it's literally Xbox's Final Fantasy with some twists. They talk about the battle screen here. The aim ring system is really important. We'll talk about that as it's a defining mechanic, but none of these status effects will look really unfamiliar to you. There are things like sleep, poison, toxin, so on and so forth. Skills are extremely important, and each mortal comes with their own preset skills, and so on and so forth. Magic, and then it ends here with a beautiful piece of art yet again. So now as we continue to put respect on Lost Odyssey, let's talk about the story. Remember how I mentioned mortals and immortals in Lost Odyssey? To me, that is the underpinning for an emotional story. The reason for that is because you have characters that have seen war, death, plagues, they've had families multiple times, and they're sort of numb to that pain. In fact, the game begins, and this will be the only thing I offer you in the terms of, I put this in quotes because it's not, but a spoilery fashion, is the game begins with Kime, your main character, in the heart of a vicious war, and he is wiping people out in the dozens. And it is one of the most epic beginnings to a JRPG I've ever experienced. And I think I've played a lot of really good ones to say that. The transition from cutscene to gameplay is still miraculous. It's still peak fiction status. It's insane. But you're in the heart of this vicious war. It ends in a brutal manner. Kime, as an immortal who's lived for over 1,000 years, gets up, walks away. It's really not a big deal to him. And it was there to me that it was set in, this isn't just your kind of emotionless protagonist trying to be edgy. This guy legitimately has a reason to not really feel much. He's seen this before, arguably worse. And when you start to factor in more familial relations, close friendships, love, like how Kime and Sarah connect to Cook and Mac, the youngest kids in the game, to me, that's where it becomes a little more heart-wrenching, because Cook and Mac are little kids who are mortals. They will grow old and die. Meanwhile, Kime and Sarah will look the same. Ming will look the same. And it's this really, again, gut-wrenching interaction between characters where you want them to grow close, but you also want them to stay apart because you know the pain that comes when the immortals get close with the mortals. And what's interesting beyond that is how when you have beneath that a very different world with this magic energy and this power complex between nations, it's also heavily political. So again, I really love how they incorporated this emotional element into the game, and I think it's because you have characters that legitimately can never die. And one of the ways they solidify that is with a mechanic, if you will, a storytelling mechanic called the 1,000 Years of Dreams. This was originally DLC, but if you were to play it now via backwards compatibility, it's automatically added into the game. There are certain visual novel sections that will have you sit down for 5 to 20 minutes at a time, and you'll read through one of the many things that Kime has seen in his days. And each of them are, again, really emotional. They play beautiful music. At one point, I shed a tear over it because I was just like, man, you know, I feel so bad for Kime, and you know, the short-lived happiness he effectively experiences, where eventually that happiness wears off and he just can't enjoy anything because he knows all of it is finite. And he doesn't necessarily ever wish for death, but he just sits there going like, what's the point? Like, why get connected to anything? Why fight for anything? And you understand that. So the characters in the story here, I think, are a really powerful component of the game. But also it's a looker. I'm not a graphics guy, you know that. I'm more of an art style guy, but I just simply cannot deny that the technological achievement of a game that came out in, let's just double check the print here. 2008. How dang good it looks. It is absolutely a factor in my love for it because it's still easy to recommend. You know, when I look at something like Final Fantasy IX, I know it's reportedly getting a remake, but I love that game. However, I kind of struggle to sit there and recommend it to you all because I know how it looks, I know how it plays, but Lost Odyssey, as we'll talk about in a sec with the gameplay, plays like a Final Fantasy game, and it looks better than pretty much all of them outside of the really modern ones. So to me, I can't get over how good this game looks. Its environments are moody and atmospheric. Its soundtrack, yes, Nobuo Uematsu from Final Fantasy helped compose the soundtrack for Lost Odyssey. All of the big names you've ever seen behind Final Fantasy worked on Lost Odyssey. That's why I'm such a staunch defender of Lost Odyssey. Not that anyone dislikes it, but I can't believe that it's not in the conversation often enough of like greatest JRPGs to hit a platform. That's how strong I am about this game. And not only that, but certainly most underrated and most under-discussed. So I try to take it in my hands and be like, okay, I've seen here on this channel, a lot of you out there are Final Fantasy fans. If you are a Final Fantasy fan, this is Xbox's Final Fantasy. And it comes at a really unique time, right? Because Xbox nowadays, they're starting to get back into the Japanese games, right? With Wolong making that day one Game Pass, teaming up with Hideo Kojima. That stuff sounds great for the future. But when you look at the 360 generation, they had a ton of exclusive JRPGs. This, to me, being the crowning achievement. And I wish they kept Mistwalker around. But now Mistwalker is over making mobile games on the Apple Arcade. And they are still JRPGs, and they do look good. But it's just like, come make it Lost Odyssey 2 or remake Lost Odyssey. Oh, my God, would that be amazing. But they've already turned that one down as well. So that's why, like, now is a great time to pick it up and just play it. It looks like there's no movement for the IP, no chance of a remake or a remaster. It looks beautiful and back and pat. You still got those wonderful achievements there. There's just so much to experience and love. And what's great is I'm talking about the story and the music this whole time. Haven't even hit you up with the gameplay. So like I said, it plays a lot like Final Fantasy, but here are the defining mechanics. First is the aim ring system. So every basic attack isn't just a basic attack. I know we just talked about this game and how mini games within basic combat can be frustrating. However, in Lost Odyssey, let's say you fail the ring challenge, it's not like you're going to be punished and do 1 damage. No, that's not how it's going to work. What'll happen though is you'll get a sense of timing, and it'll improve your accuracy a little bit, and it'll improve your damage a decent amount as well. So not only do you have that there for the basic attacks, but all the immortals start off with really like no skills. However, the mortals, as I mentioned during our manual section, have preset skills. So there's skill linking in this game. So you can connect Kaim with, say, Cook. And Cook is, at her base value, a white mage. Jensen, at his base value, is a black mage. And so what happens is I can skill link Kaim with Cook and start getting white mage abilities. And every single battle, not only are you getting XP, but you're also getting skill points that you can then use to unlock these. At first, you're kind of keeping pace with the game, right? Like, you're gradually getting more and more skills. You're building up your combat portfolio. You're thinking, like, everyone's going to be overpowered. But suddenly, the game just takes it up a notch. And you just start unlocking move after move after move. And all of your immortals can't keep up. I love that because it means that now these immortals need defined roles. And when I've looked up online, some of the builds you can do in this game, it is nutty. Not only that, but I just think that the customization, the experimentation there is fantastic. And the way it's so naturally done really needs to be commended. It's a system that I would love to see in other JRPGs because it makes it where getting everyone involved is really useful. And one way they get everyone involved is through the 2-row system. So you'll have multiple characters in a front row and multiple characters in a back row. Typically, you want your mages in the back because they are, you know, glass cannons, and you want your tanks and your heavy hitters up front because there's a guard row up front, and there's an overall guard meter that as it gets knocked down more, the people in the back will take more damage. So you want the people who can absorb damage up front, and so the people in the back can, you know, do your healing, do your spell casting, do a lot of the damage. I like this system because it feels like almost you're fighting a war. Like you have your front line and your back lines, and you can swap people's positions. I just love the level of interaction in combat, in and out of combat, mind you. That's the cool part. It does involve a lot of menu hopping, though. One thing I've come to appreciate with, say, a very recent example being Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is that when you finish combat, you automatically heal. Now, I think that's because the game has a lot of systems built into it that demand this happens. Like you can, for example, try to climb down a cliff face and all of your party members will fall and lose all their health. It would be annoying to stop the game, spend a bunch of MP, heal up, or use items, heal up. It kind of ruins the pacing of the game. This is one of those games that almost every combat session, I was in the menus, using skills, using items, and trying to bring my life back up. Keep that in mind. I know it's not a big deal for most of us who are kind of, I would say, numb to that, but this is a menu hopper, if you will, because you'll maybe unlock a new skill, so you'll try to swap that out, then you'll take a lot of damage, then you'll get out of combat again, and you'll go into your menu, and you'll heal again, and so on and so forth. So you'll be in menus almost after most battles I've experienced, but I think it doesn't take anything off the experience. And when you meld it all together, this emotional story, these beautiful environments, this wonderful combat system that's very Final Fantasy inspired, it's just a game that I feel needs way more respect and way more players behind it. Will it ever get a sequel? I don't know, but the game ends conclusively. It ends in a way where you're not going to be hungering for more, wondering what happens next. It is a game that has a start, middle, and finish which was pretty rare, I feel, back then, where every game was creating cliffhangers because everyone wanted to make a series of 3. Lost Odyssey is like, let's do a beginning, middle, end, call it a day. And what's great is the game opens up at a certain point, and it can be as short as long as you want. It is a long game. However, if you want to just explore the world, like get on your boat and ride around and go to different islands and fight secret bosses and get secret skills and secret weapons, if you want to do all of that, you absolutely can. But I just feel like with the customization of your experience, this is one worth playing through. I have nothing but very positive things to say about it. I went back and already replayed it once for a separate video over on my Mr. Matty Plays channel because I just want to keep preaching the good word of this game. And I had this moment where I was thinking, like, do I want to do a video on this or a video on Lightning Returns? And we'll eventually do a video on Lightning Returns. But I thought to myself, you know, let's take a break from Final Fantasy. We already did like a 50-minute Final Fantasy 12 video, 2 Final Fantasy 13 videos. I was like, let's throw Lost Odyssey in the mix because it's still Final Fantasy, but it's a Final Fantasy game that no one ever talks about. And I really feel like with the audience we have here who loves JRPGs, you owe it to yourself to give this one a try. It's about $20 complete in box online, last I looked, so it's not a heavy price tag, which I think is really nice to see. Typically, when you look at these lesser-known JRPGs, especially on the 360, it's like they're like $80 or something like that. I would pay $80 for it, but I know not many of you out there would, and I wouldn't recommend it, of course. But I do think that this is a much more affordable JRPG. And what helps is it's also, if you will, I know we're all collectors here, digitally available. So there's a lot of ways to access it too. I just, again, really implore you all, give it a try. Just want to put some respect on it in today's video. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, join me in persuading the masses to play Lost Odyssey. If you have, fire away in the comments down below. And with that, I'll catch all of you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.